Good day, guys. Hope you're doing well. My name is yours faithfully, aka Mr. Remedies. Okay, when did I even start calling myself that? Anyways, so guys, here we are with part 2 of the video. I apologize for taking so long to bring this part 2. Took about a year or so. But yeah, we're back and now we're going to carry on from here to ensure that we finish this course. Remedies. Where did we end off last time? We are on incidental damages. Incidental. What are incidental damages? Incidental damages. Z with the S at the last. So I think I have to clear my throat for this one. Incidental damages in contract law or even tort law. So incidental damages are the reasonable expenses incurred by a non-breaching party to mitigate or manage the immediate effects of a breach. You know what I do is when I read something and I don't understand some terms such as what do you mean by non-breaching party, you can go and look it up. I was that law student in first year. I would usually read something and I'll search it up. What does it mean by a non-breaching party? I'll let you do your homework. And also, what does it mean to mitigate? To mitigate, you can research. So to mitigate is to stop further loss. You mitigate your loss. You stop further loss. So let's say you incur expenses at the expense. You incur expense as a result of a breach by the defendant. For example, let's say you have an examination in May and then Musonda breaks your laptop and then Musonda doesn't really show that need to fix your laptop. And now because you're running out of time, you have to study, you end up fixing it yourself. So now you're going to sue Musonda for incidental damages, which are the expenses that you incurred. It's all about out of the pocket, where you get your own money to fund something that you're not supposed to fund, that you're supposed to be remunerated for. What do I mean? I have incurred an expense as the result of the defendant's breach. So these are usually the out-of-pocket costs spent to handle the situation right after the contract was broken. So I'm reading it in a context of contract law. Let's say you enter into a contract with somebody. Okay, I'll give examples so you can understand what I mean. So even in tort law, expense incurred. I've given an example of tort law where somebody destroys your laptop, which is definitely trespass to goods. They end up messing it up. You can definitely sue them for trespass to goods, of course, and also you sue them for incidental damages, the expenses you incurred as a remedy. This whole course is about the remedies that we receive, not the actual torts, but the remedies. The claim for which we are bringing to the cause of action in court. Now we want a remedy for it, so we bring about what? That we want that exact thing, which is that remedy. So now in here we want incidental damages, which are expenses that we incurred as a result of the defendant's breach. So they are distinct from the primary loss, which is whereby, let's say, consequential damages, which we'll explain soon, which have to do with the consequence of the breach. As a result of Musonda's breach, I suffered a loss, not expenses. I suffered just the actual loss. I'll explain that soon on consequential damages. But now, key characteristic of incidental damages are the objectives that they are meant to compensate the claimant for expenses incurred in, let's say, transporting, storing, or maybe caring for goods after a breach. In this case, caring for goods, we can say you have an exam, like I gave an example. I can give various examples. You have an exam and I destroy your laptop. But now, because you care for your laptop and you have to study, what do? You fix it. So you've incurred an expense. My breach was to destroy your laptop. The reasonableness here is that to be recoverable, the expenses must be reasonable and directly related to the breach. Please, for you to recover under incidental damages, it must be something reasonable. For example, let's say I destroy your laptop, right? And then fixing your laptop, let's say your screen would cost, let's say you have an HP laptop. Then let's say, for example, fixing your screen would cost about 2,000 to 3,500 as a maximum. And then you go to a very expensive someone who can fix your laptop at a very expensive price. You go and they end up charging you 5,000 to 6,500 to 7,000, and then you bring me a quotation to say I spent about this much. I booked a yango to go to town to take my laptop. I sent it to Lusaka, but in Kitwe there are also places where you can fix. So you will not be able to get those incidental damages if the damages that you have spent or the expense that you have spent are too expensive. I'm not saying they're not supposed to be expensive. It's all about the value of your goods or the value of your loss. But let's say if something in this context, we're talking about a laptop. Your laptop, the value for fixing your screen can be 2,000 to 2,500 in Kitwe, in town. But what do? You go to, you take your you because no, I only trust people in Osaka. They're charging you 8,000, but every other store can charge you less than that. I will not compensate you for that much because you did not mitigate your loss. You should have mitigated it by finding something reasonable, fixing it at a reasonable price, not something that is just over exaggerated. I hope we're understanding here. So number one, they are meant to compensate you for the expenses incurred. Number two, the expenses must be what? Reasonable. Thirdly and lastly, which is the standard of proof, unlike consequential damages, of which we shall discuss, which require proof that the loss was so foreseeable. So now for incidental damages, they are usually seen as a natural and direct result of the breach. For consequential damages, you have to prove. You really have to prove that you actually suffered a loss. But now for incidental damages, it is easy to see that, oh, okay, this screen I broke on her laptop definitely would cost so and so much, and definitely because of me breaking her screen, she's definitely going to incur expenses to fix it because she has an exam. That's definitely foreseeable. So it is easy to see, unlike in consequential damages where you have to prove on a standard of proof. You have to balance on a balance of probabilities, rather. You really have to prove. But now, examples of incidental damages. We've talked about laptops too much. So let's say in contractual context, where let's say you have a contract. Let's say storage costs, for example. If a buyer wrongfully, let's say the buyer here is Mr. Patrick. If Mr. Patrick rejects the shipment of timber, let's say I sell timber, Mr. Patrick comes to me to buy timber. Okay, we agree. And then I get the timber and I send them to a warehouse where they will be stored for Mr. Patrick. So, and I'm renting at that warehouse. Mind you, I'm renting there so that Mr. Patrick can come and pick them up on what? On Wednesday. But prior to Wednesday, Mr. Patrick breaches the contract by saying he will not get the timber anymore. But I was renting. The only loss I've incurred there is I was renting. I've incurred expenses out of my own pocket. I was paying for that rent. So I'll sue Mr. Patrick for incidental. What I'm going to sue, claiming what I want incidental damages because of his breach of contract. I incurred expenses. Wow, I hope I understand it here. Transportation. Let's say someone wants to buy a phone or something from you. Or let's say I order something on Yango Daily, right? Okay, the Yango. Okay, no, let me say Yango. Let's say I want to order rice from Nakonde, and then the people send the rice on the bus. It reaches here, and I don't pick it up. And then I call them and tell them to say, I no longer need the rice. What will they sue me for? The expenses they incurred in transporting the rice. They'll still get back their rice, but they'll sue me for those expenses that they've incurred. So we can give as much examples as we can, but the key context that we have to understand here is that under the characteristics, the objective is that has to be expenses incurred. So this has to do with what? Incidental damages. So we have understood incidental damages at a very clear cut, and in our next video we shall definitely understand consequential damages, nominal damages, aggravated damages, punitive damages, and so on. See you in the next video. Signing out.